10 red flags in women. If you're a man and you want to find the right girlfriend, life partner or wife, you have to learn to screen for these signs of toxicity, these red flags. Ignoring these will lead to a tremendous amount of suffering in your dating and your relationship life. If many years ago I had been aware of the signs that I'm showing you today, of these red flags, then I probably would have never ended up in such a painful relationship with my ex-wife. So let's crack right on in. Well, before we get into it, actually, it's not just women who exhibit these toxic signs. Men as well. Women do harm to men in relationships, and men do harm to women in relationships. And if you're a man and you want a fulfilling relationship where you feel respected, where you feel appreciated, where you feel desired, you have to make sure that there is an utter absence of these red flags. The first one, she's easily offended. If you make a joke and her default reaction is to get upset and to get angry and to misinterpret what you're saying in a negative way, then she's most likely suffering from low self-esteem. The number one qualification criteria that you want to screen for as a man is high self-esteem. High self-esteem basically just means you're secure within yourself. And people who are secure within themselves, they don't get easily offended by jokes, because it's just a joke. They assume positive intent. Does she assume positive intent, or does she assume negative, neutral, or hostile intent? If her default mode is to assume hostility, that's going to make it very difficult to have a fulfilling relationship. So that's a big one. If she's easily offended, if she gets easily upset, if her default is a negative interpretation of a situation, then you definitely want to stay away from her. Same with men, by the way. There's some men who do the exact same thing. It applies both, but this is a channel for men, so obviously we're directing it towards women. Number two, often misinterpreting what you said in a super negative way. Oh yeah, it's kind of similar to what I just talked about, but a slightly different spin on it. So you're saying that, are you calling me fat? You're saying I'm stupid? Again, it's basically the same point, just with a slightly different twist. Is she twisting what you're saying in a negative way? Is she using a straw man fallacy very often? And again, this comes back down to self-esteem. Women who are grounded, who are calm and confident and secure within themselves, they don't feel the need to attack you because they don't feel like they're in danger. They're pretty calm and confident most of the time. Now, that is not to say that she should put up with whatever you say. That is not to say that if you actually behave in a disrespectful manner, that she should never call you out on that. If you say something stupid, obviously she should call you out. You should do the exact same thing. But what's her default mode of interpretation? Number three, guilt. Is she trying to make you feel guilty? Example, she asks you for a favor, you say you won't do her that favor, and she goes, okay, and just looks down and sad. People who work with guilt, they, not necessarily that they're bad people, they can be outright toxic, but oftentimes they've simply copied that behavior from either their mother or their father or somebody in their environment. It's a strategy they use to get love and connection. We're all trying to influence each other all the time. But the difference between manipulation and influence is intent. Do I care about the other person's well-being? And also, am I honest or not? The two hallmarks of manipulation are one, intent, negative intent, and not being honest. If you genuinely care about the other person's well-being and you're honest, you're influencing but not manipulating. We're all trying to influence each other all the time. Parents trying to influence their kids, employers trying to influence their employees, a man tries to, like I'm trying to influence Fernanda to take vitamin D, to take an omega-3 algae-based supplement because she's allergic to fish, for example. So obviously I'm trying to influence her, but I'm doing it with her best interest in mind, with her well-being in mind. It's not just you want to get yours no matter what happens to the other people. That becomes extraordinarily toxic. But people who use guilt, they're trying to get what they want by making you feel bad. And be super aware of that. And these signs are sometimes so subtle. But if you oftentimes feel guilty around the person, then that can mean that that person is unconsciously trying to make you feel guilty. Now, sometimes if you feel guilty a lot, it could just mean that you have a negative inner self-dialogue and you need to work on your confidence. Sometimes you may feel guilty without even having to feel guilty, but other times she's actually trying to provoke that reaction from you. For example, it's a Wednesday night and you want to go out and play football. You want to go rock climbing with your friends. And she says, really? Okay, you just go. You just go, okay, wow. Why are you giving me such a negative parting message? Shouldn't you be happy for me? And this is where you as a man really have to set a boundary. A lot of people, they like to talk about sacrifice. And the people who talk most about sacrifice, that you have to sacrifice things to make the relationship work, they're the people who are in relationships with women that shouldn't even be a friends with benefits relationship. You shouldn't sacrifice the things that are most important to you. Obviously, everything is a sacrifice. There's opportunity cost associated to everything. If I go to this pub, I can't go to the gym. If I'm with her, I can't be with her. If I'm on a night out and I decide to spend time with this woman for an hour and a half, even though it's not going anywhere, just because I'm not reading her signals, well, then I'm losing an hour and a half that I could use to socialize in general. If I'm only going in on Tinder and I'm not going on Bumble or Hinge, there's an opportunity cost associated to everything. And the same holds true in relationships. In order to make a relationship work, there's certain things that you need to sacrifice. But I'm deeply convinced that you shouldn't sacrifice more than 5% in your relationship. You know how people say it's always 50-50? Well, what does that mean? 50-50 literally means that 50% of the time you're doing something you don't want to be doing. That you're at a 5 out of 10 relationship. I don't think she should be sacrificing too much either. There should be such a high degree of compatibility between the two of you that 95% of the time, if you say let's go to the gym, she's happy to go and do that. If you say let's go travel here, she's happy to go and do that. If you say I'm going to spend time with my business partners, my high quality male friends, I'm going to work on this business project, whatever, she's like, yeah, cool, no worries. Because she either has her own hobbies, or she's got something productive to do. Perhaps she works in the business with you, she has her own career, maybe she's looking after the kids. There's something else she's happy to do. Now, if you're a man and you like coming home at 5 p.m. every day, that's amazing. If you're somebody who likes to work 9 or 10 hours as opposed to just 6 or 7 hours a day, well, then you need a woman who's compatible with that. And my mother, who I love to death, most amazing woman. If anybody were to ever say anything bad about her, they'll have a severe issue with me. But that being said, I feel like she tried to make my dad feel guilty back in the day for working a lot. My father was very career-driven, is still to this day very career-driven. And he just enjoys working. He just enjoys being productive. And at 4:30, regularly she would get upset. Where is he? It's not because she's a bad person. She's an absolute hero and she's the most amazing person. But her need was to have somebody there at 4 or 5 p.m. every day. And there was just a lack of compatibility. The two of them should have never been together in the first place. So be aware of people trying to make you feel guilty and never sacrifice the things that are important to you in a relationship. Next one, that goes in the same direction, controlling behavior. I've told the story several times, but many years ago, when I was with my ex-wife, it was a Sunday in Dublin. It was a very sunny, beautiful day. We don't have that many in Ireland. I go for a walk, and she asks me within 2 minutes to put on sun protection. I'm like, yeah, cool. I know I burn easily. I'm a ginger and I'm white and I burn very quickly. But I think I can take 20 to 30 minutes of sun because I haven't seen the sun in 2 or 3 weeks, which can happen in Ireland easily. And, usually the more accurate representation of reality is that in Ireland, during the day, you can get like 4 seasons. So usually you have a little bit of sun, then you can have hailstones in one day, and you have a big variety of weathers, so to speak, or of seasons in one day. And so anyway, it's a beautifully pure blue sky sunny day, so we're going for a walk. And I say to her, well, give me 20 or 30 minutes. She says, no, you should put it on right now. Okay, no, you should put it on right now. I'm like, well, put it on later. No, you're going to put it on right now, skin cancer, all of that. Say, I'll put it on later. She got so upset that I didn't listen to her suggestion because she derived certainty from control to an extent that she just started walking ahead of me and didn't speak to me for 3 hours because I didn't want to put sun protection on my own body. Now, you might say, oh, that's crazy. She's not a crazy person. She's not a bad person. But there are some people who derive a sense of certainty by controlling others. And obviously, everybody wants to control each other to an extent, at least to the extent where we respect each other, of course. But if a woman, or a man for that matter, say men do that with women just as much. There's men who do that to women in relationships in a very, very unhealthy way. They talk about being an alpha male and telling her what to do, telling her what not to do. That's not the aim of the game at all. That being said, be very careful if she exhibits controlling behaviors and set boundaries right in the beginning. Because you have to understand, here's something. Even a woman who's not naturally inclined to be very controlling can go into that direction if you elicit those types of behaviors from her. That's important to understand. The same woman who's going to be controlling with you is going to be fairly relaxed and chill and just easygoing with another man, depending on the boundaries you set, depending on how much you pay attention to the social dynamics. It really depends on the types of illicit behaviors you elicit from her by how you position yourself in your interaction with her. So that's an important one. Next, emotional outbursts towards you. Extreme emotional reactions to not so extreme events, crying, screaming, throwing things. And it's okay to have emotional outbursts every once in a while, but there are some people who score extraordinarily high on the scale of neuroticism. Some people are very neurotic. And now, does that mean that you can never be in a relationship with a person who has neurotic tendencies? Not at all. There's so much that can be done about being neurotic. It starts with food, it starts with exercise, it starts with sleep. But if you're in a relationship or if you're dating a woman who's highly neurotic, who loves you in one moment and hates you in the next, that's a big telltale sign that your life is going to become living hell in the very, very near future, because that's just not sustainable for anybody. The funny thing is, I was speaking to a one-on-one client yesterday on the phone, and he was telling me how in his previous relationship, he's not dating somebody, he's very happy, and he's just so appreciative of the relationship, but there was one or two things that he wanted to discuss, so we talked about that. But in the previous relationship, it was, 6 or 9 months ago, when he started the coaching, he was with somebody, or he just got over actually a relationship that was very toxic. And exactly that type of behavior occurred. She loved him in one moment and she was absolutely obsessed with him. But then the next moment she ignored him, she was playing hard to get, there was outright hate and anger towards him. And he talked about how the highs were super high and the lows were super low. I would encourage you to have a much more balanced relationship where you don't go extremely crazy high and not so extremely crazy low. Obviously you want to have high moments with a person where you drive out into nature and you have intimacy in crazy places. You have beautiful adventures. You share beautiful moments together at home. You Netflix and you get the chill, as opposed to what a lot of men are doing these days. They get the Netflix but not the chill by themselves, or they chill by themselves. Obviously you want to have adventures. You want to have these highs, but not to an extent where it drops down. So having high emotional volatility is a big sign that you should stay the fuck away from that person. Next, withholding intimacy, sex, as punishment. Many of you might think it's completely normal for a woman to weaponize sex to elicit compliance. I'm not telling you it's not. Women will reward you with sex or other forms of affection and intimacy for spending less time with your male friends, for spending less time at work. This is not healthy. There have been stimuli in your life that influence you to think that it's normal for women to withhold intimacy in a relationship. And I can tell you it's absolutely not. It's a very, very manipulative strategy. It's very bad. And again, I'm not saying that every time a woman doesn't want to have sex with you, she's bad, or she's doing that for manipulative reasons, or it's a sign of toxicity in the relationship. No, sometimes she's genuinely going to be tired, sometimes she's genuinely not going to be in the mood. That is fine. But how often does this happen? How often do you want to have sex in a relationship? 5 days a week? 7 days a week? 14 days a week? In other words, twice a day? Once a week? How often do you want to have it? And sex drive is something that you can't really fix later on. She either has a sufficiently high sex drive or she hasn't. Some women genuinely have a very, very, very low sex drive. That's perfectly okay, but then they have to find a man who also has a very low sex drive. If you have a fairly substantiated sex drive, then it's absolutely important that you're in a relationship with a woman who also has a fairly high sex drive. That being said, there's things in relation to hormones and how attracted she is to you. In other words, how much does she respect you? How valuable does she perceive you to be? That influences how much she wants to be with you in a very physical sense. That being said, coming back full circle, you have to understand that it's not normal for her to withhold intimacy. Sometimes she's not going to be in the mood, that's okay, but it is not normal to withhold it as a manipulation tactic. It's not like, okay, first you have to do what I want and then we can engage in intimacy. No, a better strategy is to have sex first and then fix whatever you need to fix. But then again, there's also some women who need to feel that you've been able to talk about things first and then they can open up to you and really connect, if you get what I'm saying. But if it's consciously, overtly or covertly being used, it being intimacy, sex, as a strategy to elicit desired behavior on your part, that's a big red flag. Next one, judgment. If you feel like she's constantly judging you, then you should run very, very far away. There's some people, men as well as women, who judge the shit out of each other. It's really, really terrible. And the reason they judge you is because they judge themselves, because they have low self-esteem. This is really what it comes down to. There's a lot of individual qualification criteria when it comes to the selection of a long-term partner for you as a man. Things that are important to you uniquely. But there's also some that are very universal. And the number one universal qualification criteria is high self-esteem. Does she like herself? What's her emotional home? Is her emotional home that of happiness, joy, peace, positivity, or the opposite? Anger, judgment, fear, stress, negativity. So everybody can change. Everybody who wants to change can change, but it is not your job to change that person. You are not her psychotherapist. You are not her psychotherapist. So don't try to change her. A lot of men who don't feel emotionally fulfilled in their life, or on the other hand, some men who are just genuinely super kind and caring people, they feel the need to find a woman who's broken and fix her. And that's gonna mess you up and her, because she'll never take you serious. She can never take you serious because you don't have that much status in her eyes. Even if you have status as a man, it's a different role. It's a completely different role. A psychotherapist, a psychologist, a coach, a mentor, a friend, somebody, some licensed professional ideally should help her figure these things out. And there's a lot of brilliant strategies if your emotional home is negative to turn that around, to make that positive. I teach a lot of them in my coaching program because I want to boost men's levels of confidence and energy, and even if you're already doing well, to make you even more positive and even more happy on a daily basis. But if her current emotional home, which is the only thing you should be evaluating, not the potential of how she could be in the future, but right now, if that is negative, move the fuck on immediately. Next one, verbal insults. You might say, well, common sense. Yeah, but common sense isn't common practice. There's a lot of men who are being verbally assaulted by women, and there's a lot of women. Again, all this holds true for the other way around. There's a lot of men who do these things to women, but a lot of women who actually insult men. You suck at this. You're a fucking asshole. You're a fucking idiot. So we all make jokes. We all tease each other. But what's the intent? Is the intent to make you feel bad or playful teasing? Verbal insults are a big no-go. Number 9, unreasonable jealousy. If she's unreasonably jealous, that's a sign of an insecurity. That's a sign of a lack of self-esteem, a lack of confidence, a lack of feeling secure within oneself. That being said, you don't want her to not be jealous at all, because if she's not jealous at all, she's probably getting her needs met somewhere else, probably by somebody else who has bigger tools than you to meet those needs. Look, I'm not trying to, if you have a small tool, don't be worried about that at all. There's a lot of techniques that you can use to sexually satisfy women. It is what it is. You just got to own that. So don't have any insecurity around that, because I know a lot of men do. Don't worry about that at all. That was just, didn't mean to reinforce that insecurity of yours right there. But coming back full circle, if she's not jealous at all, that's a bad sign. Now, if she's too jealous, that can become a problem. Then you have to set a boundary. Some women are going to act fairly jealous until you set a boundary, and then they're going to calm down. So there's 2 things you have to do. Set a boundary, reassure. Set a boundary, reassure. Boundary, reassurance, reassurance, reassurance. Boundary, reassurance, reassurance, reassurance. Really, that kind of a ratio, right? A 3-to-1 ratio of reassurance, 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 boundary. A lot of men, they just reassure. It's okay, baby, it's okay. Oh no, I won't do it. And they act like little fucking pussies. But they never set a boundary. They lose their masculinity. The reassurance is the feminine. But you also have to have the masculine where you set a fucking boundary. Okay? Verbally. And the way you set a boundary is simply saying, look, I will never cheat on you. You can trust me 100%. We may have to have some radically honest conversations that are going to be uncomfortable at times, but it's important for me that you trust me. If you cannot trust me, then this is not going to work. Now, the last sentence, that ultimatum, that threat, you should really only use that if it's gotten to an extreme point, okay? Don't be threatening the relationship. One of the things that Tony Robbins says is never threaten the relationship, ever. And this is probably more so in the initial dating process, not when you're actually in a relationship, but you have to say, this cannot happen. You cannot be this unreasonably jealous around me. I have never given you any reason. By the way, if I ever do give you a reason, then do please call me out, 100%. But if there's no real reason, then you have to trust me. It's important, because I will not be talked to like that. I don't want to feel like I have Sherlock Holmes up my ass the whole time. So this is how you could communicate a boundary. And you can communicate that in your own way. It's not about the exact words. That's just an example. Number 10. trying to make you jealous, or flirting with other men. There are some women who enjoy the attention of a variety of different men a little bit too much. If she enjoys getting validated by that many different men, and she's flirting, really flirting with a lot of other men, maybe even in front of you, you should cut that shit off right in the beginning. And the way you do that is not ever by telling her what to do. You don't ever tell her what to do. She's free to do whatever she wants. But if she's going to be with you in your relationship, she cannot be flirting with other men. That's important. So that's where you have to set a boundary. If you don't set that boundary in the beginning, you will lose self-respect. She will lose respect for you as a man. This is something really important. Women may reward you in the short term for being feminine, but they'll stay attracted to you in the long term, and they'll respect you if you act like a masculine man. And that means setting a boundary. She may be testing you. Her flirting with other men may be congruence test. Now you could say, well, that's toxic as fuck behavior. Yes, true that. And the right type of women, by the way, they're not going to want to do that. The right type of women, they want the validation of one amazing man. And this is also an important message. There's a lot of people who are very cynical towards this whole idea of dating and relationships. As you may have gathered, if you've been consuming my content for quite some time, I have a very positive view of women. I'm not an idiot, and I'm fully aware that there is very, very bad people in this world, men as well as women, but I have a very generally positive view. That being said, you need to be aware of when to set boundaries. And if she starts flirting with other men, say, hey, this is not happening, not with me. You're free to do whatever you want, and if you want to leave this relationship, if you don't want to be with me, that's perfect. This is, again, it's a little bit more tailored. The way you communicate with her when you're in a relationship is going to be slightly different to in the dating process, because the phrasing has to be a little bit different, right? So it really has to be tailored to the context. It's just an example. But it's like, look, this cannot be happening. And the right kind of women, they don't want that. They want the validation of one man. There are amazing women in this world, and there are some women who are, not right for you. That being said, so on the one hand, one argument is there are some women who are right for you and some women who aren't. Good, one perspective. The other perspective is, doesn't matter whether she's right for you or not, all women may act in a way that you find desirable or the opposite, depending on how you behave. So, as much as this is an invitation to screen out the wrong people and disqualify the wrong people quickly, not too quickly, because you don't want to lose out on amazing opportunities, but disqualify the wrong ones, it is also an invitation to set boundaries and act more kind and loving, but also firm, gentle but firm in the relationship. And if you want me to help you personally find the right girlfriend, life partner, or wife, or to have a better dating life in general, simply apply for a free initial consultation call with the link underneath this video. It's January 2023. Let's make some amazing magic happen this year. You truly deserve it. Looking forward to speaking with you soon. Take care.